not going to make America great again. It was never that great.
Good evening and welcome to Metro Focus. I'm Jack Ford. America was never that great. With those words, Governor Cuomo finds himself in the midst of a controversy, catching the eye of critics both close to home and nationally after he takes aim at President Trump's Make America Great Again slogan. The president was among the first to respond, tweeting, quote, "Can you believe this is the governor of the highest tax state in the U.S., Andrew Cuomo, having a total meltdown," end quote. Governor Cuomo's remarks also sparked a heated response from Marc Molinaro, the Republican candidate for governor, who said that he owed the nation an apology. So, what are the consequences? For that, we turn to Daily Beast senior editor, Harry Siegel, who's also a columnist for the New York Daily News, and we're always delighted to have him here with us. Harry, how are you? First question to you, were you surprised to hear Governor Cuomo say this?
Governor Cuomo is a terrible campaigner who does not connect with humans. And this is the second major unforced rhetorical error this year after coining the phrase summer of hell to refer to what was going to happen to the MTA. He knows how to wield power. He knows how to talk grandly. When he tries to do politics in an ordinary way, speak to voters, make news, he's really bad at it.
If you look at his father, Mario Cuomo, whether you agreed with his politics or not, he was a marvelous campaigner. What's the difference, you think?
So Donald Trump and Andrew Cuomo, right, are these guys from Queens who are still in some ways in like the psychic shadow of their fathers. And Andrew's father was this patrician, thoughtful, appealing, brilliant, self-made man who, if he wanted to be a different sort of character, could do that. And Andrew is sort of this in reverse. He grew up as a teenager, helping to run gubernatorial campaigns and in power, and thinks of himself as just a guy from Queens who likes cars and motorcycles. I don't think that dealing with voters is where he's comfortable. By the way, with Cynthia Nixon, every time he engages directly, it's terrible. She had a brutal line about this, which is that Andrew sounded like somebody trying feebly to impersonate what a real progressive sounds like. But when it comes to boxing her out, to making sure that he's going to have his share of the vote, he's the guy who controls hundreds of billions of dollars. He's done a perfectly competent job. It's when he tries to talk to humans that he fails.
Now, it's interesting, and the governor's office has said this, and if you look at the context of the comment, after he said that, he's talking about the need for us to find equality, to do away with stereotyping, discrimination, especially for women. And yet what gets pulled out of that speech is that one line. And we've heard Democrats say about, especially President Trump, words count. What you say counts. So how does he deal with this now?
He ignores it and moves on. He is 3 weeks ahead of a primary, a Democratic primary with a challenger to his left. So in that universe, saying America has not been great, America has not lived up to his ideals, and ticking off all the ways in which that happened is perfectly reasonable. He didn't mean to step in it this way, and his office frantically said, the governor has always been against retroactive standards of greatness, and we need to move upward, and a bunch of other word babble. And the New York Times noted that in previous runs, he said, I'm going to make New York great again. So he stepped in it, but he wants to get through this primary, win by at least 25 points, and move on. So this is a hot national story because it's Trump and Cuomo in 2020, but his eyes right now are on September, not on November of 2 years hence.
And given the way our news cycles work right now, people are saying, well, if he's going to be a national candidate, this is going to come back to haunt him. Do you think it would play out that way?
Yeah, it would be in attack ads in 2020.
Right.
It's a simple, clean, bad line that you can use to distill a line of attack. So yes, I think I don't know how much damage it does, but it's something that is in everyone's clip reels now as they're looking ahead.
Do you think, last question for you, we're in the midst of what's now been described as tribal politics. So the people who are ardent supporters of Governor Cuomo are going to stay ardent supporters. People who are fervent opponents will stay there, fervent opponents. How about the ones in the middle? Is this something that you think has the capacity to move the needle for independents or those who are unsure?
I don't know. I don't know how many people are left in the middle. I'm one of them, and I'm exhausted by this exacerbating of tensions and extremities and contrasts. Like the idea of any fight about whether America is or was great just makes me sad, and like I'd like to retire from our politics until they become more sensible.
Yeah, I'm like you. I'm an independent, have always been sort of in the middle, can move either way on some issues, but after a while you just get beaten down by all of that. Hopefully, maybe sometime in the near future we can come to our senses and be more rational in our politics. In any event, Harry, it's always good to talk to you. You're always helpful, help us understand all this. We'll talk to you again, I'm sure, soon down the road. You be well.
Thanks for having me.